you, praise the Lord. But anyway, there were times we didn't know, right, Mr. Fletcher? But all of this, I understand that the ultimate goal of all of this is to provide a uniform and exceptional education for every child in every school. But my concern is, as a parent, is how much of this is taking up teachers' time with paperwork and sometimes redundant meetings and things like that, that's taking time away from them that they could be preparing inspiring lessons for our students.
Absolutely.
That concerns me as a parent, because I sat here, I have a teaching degree. And as I sat here and watched, and I've not been in a full-time system in several years. I've been employed full-time for several years in the teaching system. But what I was saying was, as I was sitting here, I thought, it's the same old PowerPoints that I was seeing. It's not the same in any way, but it's the same thing. Oh, let's get this paperwork all in line. And I feel like sometimes, for me, as Joe Schmo parent, I want to know how all of this is going to make sure that my third grader will leave third grade prepared for fourth grade, and my senior will leave 12th grade prepared for college. So, like I said, and I realize that 25 years down the road, perhaps it may not take that long, but Martin County's going to be a great system because we're going to continue to progress. But what about for the here and now, the students that are needing instruction today, next week, next year? How does this affect them?
Right. And I think that in a nutshell, and Mr. Fletcher can add, or anyone that's here tonight that's working with their students can add to that, but I think right now in our district, we have more focus on data analysis. How did your child perform in reading, in math? And we have what we're calling a benchmark test, but it's the math test, and we give that district-wide. And we're watching those students longitudinally from year to year. Are they progressing each year? Are they meeting a leveled score so that that child is improving? And we're setting up what is called a response to intervention across the district. And that is, if they're not making those progresses, what are we doing in that regular classroom? Not pulling them out, but what are we doing in Tier 2 in that regular classroom to give them that supplemental help? And I think you will see across the district that our teachers are doing it. Do they have more work? Yes. Is there more paperwork? Yes. Are we in a time where we have to do more with less money? Yes. But you know, when I first started work, I went to school at 7 o'clock. I stayed there till Mr. Webb said nobody else is allowed on the hill. I'm walking the gate.
Me too. I did the same thing.
Right. And that's what teachers do. That's what teachers do. That's what we've always done. So, you know, a pat on the back for them whenever you see them goes a long way too.
You've got two perfect examples sitting right here that have been honored tonight.
Yes.
You know, and it's more data focused, but it's also more individualized.
Yes.
The instruction for the children, and it's about getting the teachers to talk about, okay, what did Ms. Hess, what did you try that worked for Johnny that I could try in my classroom? It's that professional conversation that when I was a classroom teacher, it didn't happen.
Well, I can tell a big difference in, I adopted 4 children 4 years ago. And my one who's now a senior was a freshman in high school. And his skill levels were horrible. And I have worked with teachers at the high school for the last 4 years. What can we do extra? What can we do? How can we help him over these hurdles? And then my 3 younger ones, I see that in their classrooms, they're getting those things. But, you know, and then I see this new implementation of this international standards, which is great. But my concern was, are we bogging down in the paperwork of it and the logistics of it and oh, well, they said we were incompetent. Well, if someone says you're incompetent, you can either do two things. Lay down and be incompetent, or pick yourself up
and say, let's go.
You know what, I'm not incompetent, and I'm going to show you how I'm not.
Right.
So, right.
And I think you'll see here that our board, as well as our administrators, are trying to take as much of that paperwork off of the burden of the teachers
Okay.
so that they can.
Well, that's good. That was just my main concern.
Absolutely, and a good one.
I've been a teacher for quite a few years, I understand. I hear it all the time. You know, I've had more time to teach rather than do the paperwork, but that's part of it. You gotta put forth that extra effort like you did, like Ms. Chaffins, like Ms. Kerr, those kids back there. You gotta go the extra mile. It's like when I was teaching homebound. I was required to stay an hour. I stayed a lot of times 2 hours. It's whatever it takes to make that or help that kid be successful. And our job as a board, we got to provide you the resources to help our teachers. And we got great faculty. I've been there. I know who they are. I've been them. I've seen them work. And we got to help, and that's what we want to do, provide you with the resources you need to make you successful. And in turn, you'll make these, just like these two girls, and I commend you on your effort, and if I had the money, I'd take you all out to Miss Ives.
I want to say something about our teachers too. Like, I have 2 children. They're different night and day. One, I have to just, I don't know. I have an anxiety attack every morning just trying to get to school, but I have to say, anytime my son has needed a teacher to stay, they have stayed without a question or anything, and I'm thankful for that.
You got great teachers.
Yes, we do.
What about the children that do have the problems and can't get the help? I had one that graduated 4 or 5 years ago, and from the time he was in elementary school, they told me, well, he has a learning disability. I said, okay, let's get some tests. All the way through school, I kept saying, okay, you keep telling me he has this learning disability. What are you going to do about it? Are you going to help me get the test? And he graduated, and they still never done nothing for him.
There was a parent that I talked to, her daughter was dyslexic, and she wound up taking, I think, Gene Buchanan. I think she was Tomahawk here. She was very, very disappointed in the lack of. Is there anything, the thing I was thinking about, with Dr. Hensley, he had a program in grade school, and I thought about this because I remember talking to Mr. Fletcher and having kids come to the high school on reading at an elementary school level. Of course, that's not the high school's fault. If you get kids that far through school, Dr. Hensley had a program when he was at this Atkinson Elementary where he target these kids who were behind in reading, and he would put them through this, intervention and stuff where they would, I think it was like a 6 to 8 week program to get them back up, to get them reading on level. What's the chances of us doing something like that here, or implementing a program? He said he would take his best teachers and would put them in these intervention type programs.
Right. And we
actually, I want to do that, show that I was capable. At least I've been looking at some things. And what's the chances of, well, I didn't mean that, but what's the chances of us doing, incorporating something like that into our system to where we do have kids that, say, the 4th grade that are on, 2nd grade reading level or 5th grade? What,
again, this is just off the top of my head, a suggestion would be, we have a lot of programs in place in our schools. We have generally left those to site-based councils to decide what intervention programs that they want. Yeah. I think as a board that you all probably need to first look at what programs are in those schools and evaluate their effectiveness.
Well, the
That's
whole thing
part
about
of the
it
job.
is if you leave it up to site-based council, then they decide, we don't have staff to do it, so we're not going to do it.
Well, the RTI, the response to intervention, is a federal requirement, so they have no option there. But I think as a board, yes, you can look at those other programs out there. Yes, we can contract and contact whoever you want and bring them in for training and so forth. But I think we need to look at what we've got right now too and see what's working and what's not, and hold us all accountable.
But I did like that program he had. I thought it was very
back to your
effective.
question. I mean, there's things I've been frustrated with myself, and it's the lack of communication. I don't know how far, you know, you went with it, who you talked to or whatever, but I can promise you now that if you